Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee Books and Rain. I'm Rachel. I have my coffee, which I am just about finishing. Been sipping on it a little bit this evening. Probably needed to put it away since I'm getting closer to 6 p.m. and am going to want to wind down before too long. Probably shouldn't be doing yoga on hyped up on coffee, but it's fine. But we are diving into books and reviews, and just recently I was on NetGalley when I saw this book pop up. It is a book that I read a while ago and loved it. This is probably a 4.75 star for me. Not perfect, but oh my gosh, hilarious, and I was enthralled. So it is called We Are Legion, We Are Bob. It is the first book of the Bobiverse. So yeah, I said Bobiverse. B-I-B-I, or Bobiverse, the Bobiverse. And when I had this come across my NetGalley, even though I already had it in my Audible account from who knows how long ago, I absolutely picked it up. Why? Because I want to review it for NetGalley. I want to give them the kudos and accolades that it deserves, and I hope to just share this with more people who don't know about it. So that's why I picked it up again. Out of over 117,000 reviews on Goodreads, it still has a 4.27 rating. I totally get why. And I hope that you will, if you like sci-fi fantasy, space operas, humor, all of the above, then I hope you'll give it a chance. But let's dive into the summary and go from there. Bob Johansson has just sold his software company and is looking forward to a life of leisure. There are places to go, books to read, and movies to watch. So it's a little unfair when he gets himself killed crossing the street. When Bob wakes up a century later to find that corpuscles have been declared to be without rights, and he is now the property of the state, he has been uploaded into the computer hardware and is slated to be controlling AI in an interstellar probe looking for habitable planets. The stakes are high, no less than the first claim to entire worlds. If he declines the honor, he'll be switched off and they'll try again with someone else. If he accepts, he becomes a prime target. There are at least 3 other countries trying to get their own probes launched and be the first, and they play dirty. The safest place for Bob is in space, heading away from Earth at top speed, or so he thinks, because the universe is full of nasties, and trespassers make them mad. Very, very mad. So, it's about 383 pages in Kindle. It was first published September 20th of 2016. Now, I'm not certain what the reason for it being back on NetGalley is, but it literally is on NetGalley with a slated release date of what I think was October 7th. And I was like, maybe it's just a new release, maybe it's a re-release, I'm not sure. It's not yet 10 years. But man, this book has been out for a little while. But let us dive into the summary. I definitely can see right off the bat that it's been translated in multiple languages. Spanish, perhaps Russian, perhaps German, perhaps French. Yeah, nous sommes légion. That's French. So anyway, let us continue with what we're thinking. Oh yeah, it looks like there's a hardcover by Saga Press coming out in 2025. So maybe this is the hardcover press. Maybe it never made it to hardcover. I don't really know. I cannot tell you why. I can only tell you that I jumped at the chance to reread this book and specifically re-audio this book because I already had it in my arsenal of Audible account credits. And so we have Bob. Bob, who seems to be, at this particular point when we first meet him at the opening of the book, perhaps mid to late 30s, seems to have a pretty good group of friends, seems to be at some sort of convention, and has just signed up with this cryogenics company to cryogenically freeze his head for the future. What else is this rich guy going to do with his head? He doesn't really believe in like the afterlife or really religion of anything, so he's not sure if there's anything beyond, but he feels like maybe, if they can do something with his head and reanimate it at one point or another, or potentially his body, then it's something. He won't just be like dead. And what else is he going to do with all this money that he just made from selling his software company, which apparently minted him a pretty penny? Well, as he's at this con and going to various panels and all this sort of stuff, meeting up with a couple of friends, he is trying to cross the street, and a couple other people cross the street in the wrong spot. A car tries to swerve around the people crossing in the wrong spot and seems to take out Bob, who is crossing in the correct spot of the crosswalk. So Bob doesn't make it, sadly. He is now property of the cryogenics company. And so flash forward in the future, and none of that is a spoiler. That is just simply like the first 5 minutes of the book. Like, that's it. We have to get to the point where Bob is going to be Bob. So he wakes up, and it's very disconcerting because he can't feel any other parts of his body. He doesn't feel his face. He doesn't feel his legs. He doesn't feel any parts of his body. He can't move his head around. He's suddenly aware. And so that is one of the things that is kind of freaking him out a little bit. He's like, but Bob seems to have been a fairly perfect candidate for this trial. And he does kind of explain it as like, he seems to perceive the world in a different way than other people do, or in terms of like freaking out when something's like vastly different than what it is expected to be. So when he wakes up and the scientist that's working with him kind of tries to explain a little bit about what happened, gives him a rundown of like how many years it's been, and I want to say it's like maybe 130 or 113, it's somewhere in there. Bob takes it kind of in stride. He's like, he was not married. He didn't have any kids. He had a sister who had children. But he does kind of come to the terms with the fact that everybody that he once knew is dead. That the earth has vastly changed in its kind of governments and such of that. There's been a lot of realignments happening. And Bob now belongs to like faith, which apparently is like kind of like a religious government. And so he kind of belongs to them because apparently the government decided that these corpsicles that he had become don't really have any rights. So they get to buy and sell them like property. So they think they own the rights to his sentientness. Well, he starts working with this scientist and starts doing some basic tasks. The scientist gives him like the ability to, if not really have a body, have like a sort of, at least not even bio like body, but like almost drone like. He gains some ability to perceive movement, even if he doesn't get like all the tactile senses back. And so that helps him. But it seems as though other people that they've woken up, their cognitive functions that they've brought back, some of them start spiraling and get stuck in feedback loops. And I think Bob seems to understand that, but he also seems to be able to rationalize all of things happening pretty well. Now, it is super humorous because we do get Bob's perspective throughout this entire story. But ultimately, we can kind of skip forward just a little bit. Bob ends up going to space. He takes off. And you can kind of perceive that he is potentially in some sort of like craft. It is like an unmanned craft, except for his AI intelligence. And so he is kind of warned ahead of time that there is potentially some like sabotage like script in his programming. So he goes through and he first like fixes all that and makes sure that's all thrown out. He also finds out that someone duct tape some C4 like material to his craft, so he gets rid of that pretty fast. And he's able to kind of like, I mean, he uses the ship kind of like his body, but he does create himself almost like a VR world where he is then able to, I guess, even more and even better rationalize his non existence. Like by giving himself this perception of his body and an environment to live in, he then is able to function at a function better. He is still cognitively human, but there is an argument that he makes with himself of is he human or is he AI? And he goes through this process of the whole I think therefore I am, or I doubt therefore I think, or all this sort of stuff. And he really comes to the rationalization that he is still human. He just doesn't have a body. Like, so his cognitive functions, his ability to think and perceive beyond that of just an AI system, are what make him the human side. And so he still perceives himself to be human, even though he doesn't have that physical form. Well, he goes out into space, and this is where a lot of the other funny stuff starts happening, is Bob decides to clone himself. That's part of his, I guess, modus operandi, his mode of operation. That is what he is supposed to do. He is supposed to go out here, gather space resources, and start cloning himself to create like other Bobs to go out and continue spreading across the universe, finding habitable planets. And as he does this, the Bob spin-offs kind of get different personalities. They're not all like Bob. It's like when you clone a clone, you don't get a perfect clone. Have you ever seen the movie Multiplicity? You should, because it's funny, and it's kind of like when you clone a clone, sometimes you don't get a great copy. But most of them are fairly intelligent, but you definitely get one that calls himself Riker, get one that calls himself Bill, one that calls himself Homer, like from The Simpsons, one that calls himself Bart, and everything in between. So you do get a lot of variations on Bob. So Bob the First gives himself kind of like the overarching power, although he does even rationalize himself that he is not the first Bob to have been woken up. He doesn't even know how similar he is to the Bob who passed away, or to the other iterations of Bob that the faith the faith religion that he was a part of may have woken up previously either. So he's still doing his best to justify that he is living, even though he is not breathing. Again, he's still kind of technology based. He is more like an AI software. And but it just gets funny because sometimes the Bobs don't like each other, and sometimes he just wonders, it's like, where was this Bob? Where was this personality in me? Like, he really doesn't even get it. But that's why it's called the Bobiverse, is because there are multiple Bobs going on. And again, they don't clone perfectly. They are not perfect copies, and so some of them show themselves as looking different or animated or what have you. Each of them creates their own little VR world that are different in various ways. But that's why it's called We Are Legion, We Are Bob, is because we definitely have multiple personalities of this one particular guy who is kind of holding up humanity at this particular point. Now, we do get some chapters where various clones, such as Riker and Bill and Homer, are working together for various doing various functions. Like, I think Riker has kind of gone back to Earth to help the population of Earth kind of leave Earth because it's becoming uninhabitable. And then there's like, I think Homer is trying to work on figure out how to take out the competition, which is one of those competing countries. Maybe it's Brazil or Bolivia. I feel like it was a South American country if I remember correctly. But so they're all doing various things throughout the galaxy, as Bob too is also doing his thing. Now Bob, I think it's Bob, unless it's Bill, finds a race of sentient beings and he starts calling them the Deltans, and there are these gorilla-like other entities as well that are a competing entity against these Deltans. And so we do see how the Bob kind of intervenes on their behalf, potentially becoming their like godlike character, because he does come down from the heavens while they are still in their caveman like stage of using flint for tools, and potentially saving them from being wiped out by these gorilloids that are also on the planet with them. Now, is this a good idea? We don't know, but there's definitely more in this series, and I was going to click on the author's name, Dennis E. Taylor, because he does have quite a few books available, and the Bob series seems to have, let's see, potentially 5? Let's see. The Bobiverse. Yeah, 5 books in the Bobiverse series. Then there's also the Quantum Earth series. And I know I just saw another book on Goodreads. Perhaps it was... No, not that one. I know I just saw another one on Goodreads that I was really considering requesting, so I might just go ahead and do that as well. Well, the first one for the Bobiverse is We Are Legion, We Are Bob. The second one is For We Are Many. Then there's All These Worlds, Heaven's River, and Not Till We Are Lost. I know I've read the first 3, but I know I have not read the final 2, which are number 4 and 5. And it was just, again, because they fell off my radar. I think I was waiting for the 4th one to come out, and then I lost track of it because that was happening right around COVID, and I don't know what I was reading at that time, but I was in LA, and of course, chaos. So, all of that being said, I'm glad to be back with this series. I like space operas that are funny. We did talk about John Scalzi's Collapsing Empire series recently, and we talked about the 3 books in that series. I may go ahead and try to do at least the first 3 books in this Bobiverse series, just to see if you guys like it as well. If you like space opera, if you like sci-fi fantasy with humor, then I hope you'll give it a chance. It's been out for a while, so I hope I don't spoil anything for you. I don't think I would. I don't think I have, but I didn't tell you the ending of this one, but it does leave you on a cliffhanger because we have not yet finished all the things that we're going to finish with the Bobiverse. But with all of that being said, I'm going to go ahead and leave it here. I'm going to let you guys decide if this is something you want to read, but I do highly recommend it. It's fun, and thank you for joining me on this journey. I will see you all on the next page. Have a great one. Bye.